Ukrainian forces making more gains in their counteroffensive, this time in the southern Kherson region. Now, the Russian-installed head of Kherson says that Kyiv's troops have taken control of some settlements. He describes the situation as tense. Ukraine's military hasn't confirmed its latest advance. Officials have asked residents not to prematurely report good news from the front lines, and that's to avoid compromising troops on the ground. A Moscow-backed authority in Kherson, however, refutes further territorial gains by Kyiv.
Ну что, друзья, на Херсонском направлении, как ни странно, все под контролем, независимо от того, что происходит. Да, нацисты прорвались немножко вглубь, но наша система обороны работает, поэтому без какой-либо паники, там, чтобы кто ни говорил, мы находимся на территории Херсонской области. Позади меня Антоновский мост, как вы видите, все целый, стоит нормально. Мы отражаем все атаки и, честно говоря, вот все те, кто сегодня паникует в социальных сетях, приостановитесь, здесь не Харьков. Здесь не лиман, оборону держим.
Meanwhile, Russia has dismissed calls by Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov to use low-yield nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says that Moscow will only use atomic arms based on its military doctrine, which states that nukes could be launched if the very existence of Russia is threatened. There are fears Moscow could be more inclined to start a nuclear war in Ukraine after vowing to defend 4 annexed regions. For more on this, John Gambrell joins us live now from Kyiv. John, reports Ukrainian forces have advanced in Kherson. Tell us more about these supposed gains that they've made.
They've come after this counteroffensive that started in the northeast, saw the Ukrainians gain wide swaths of territory in September. Now, if you'll keep in mind, back a little bit earlier than September and August, around that month, they started to make this push in the south, in the Kherson region, but it's been very slow going for the Ukrainians. The Russians are very dug in there and had fought tooth and nail against the Ukrainians. Now, what had happened with the northeast breakout was that the Ukrainians saw an opportunity to push through when the Russians didn't have enough troops up there. And now it looks like the Russians tried to move troops from the south up to the northeast to fight against the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians now again have seized the opportunity to push. President Zelensky last night acknowledged that a couple of villages had been taken. And now over the last day, we've seen more pictures from the Ukrainians showing soldiers waving the Ukrainian blue and yellow flag in front of another series of villages. There's sort of a bit of a caution because they don't want to announce too many gains so far. There seems to be an operational security issue. They're probably trying to make sure that their own troops are safe before acknowledging more gains. But Russia in the last hour has come out and acknowledged that Ukrainian tank forces are making this push, do appear to have a superiority when it comes to numbers and arms. And now we might be seeing the Russians fall back yet again as the Ukrainians push on in their counteroffensive.
But, John, Russia hasn't specified if it's claiming all occupied regions or just perhaps areas controlled by its forces. And now we hear that it's announced plans to consult residents in Kherson, in Zaporizhia as well, about their borders. What's the situation on the ground like?
It's really interesting. That came from Peskov, the Putin spokesperson today. And it does seem to be that the Russians are acknowledging that they are facing these battlefield losses right now. You have to keep in mind that Zaporizhia, they had one of these gunpoint referenda a couple of days ago that's been internationally criticized. But the Russians don't even hold all of Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia, the regional capital, is still in control of the Ukrainians, and we're still seeing the Russians lob rockets, hitting a humanitarian convoy in the last couple of days and killing over 30 people with that one attack. So it is interesting to see that the Russians are seemingly trying to dial back their annexation plans. Now, this all could change. The Russians have changed their opinion several times, and they did call the snap annexation vote because of the Ukrainian gains. But as you mentioned earlier, the Russians have said that they're willing to use nuclear weapons to defend their territory, leading some to have the concern that they could view this new annexed territory as part of Russia under that nuclear umbrella, really raising the risks. But the West and the Ukrainians are still apparently backing this forward momentum that we've seen from the Ukrainians and continuing to supply the Ukrainian arms, meaning that this war is likely to go on as the Ukrainians try to press this apparent advantage.
John, thank you for that update. John Gambrell there in Kyiv.